Hey, it's Marthea Pitts, the MSW coach. And I have a question. And if you are new here, welcome. My name is Marthea Pitts. I am a three-time award-winning workforce development career counselor and macro social worker, which means that I do work on the national level around workforce equity, economic development. I also have worked in policy. I worked as a researcher. Check me out on LinkedIn, Marthea Pitts. If you click the link down in the episode show notes, you can see my resume there. But I really want to talk about this thing, so that's why I'm kind of zooming through the intro. Also, while you're down in the link, click on macroandpay.com, grab my free e-course. It will teach you everything that you need to know about what macro is. If you're like, what is macro social work? Usually I explain it, but start at the e-course. It is a great beginner's guide to what macro is, what that work looks like, salaries, job titles, all of the things. Also, in that same link is a link to my LinkedIn page. Send me a connection request. Let's connect on LinkedIn. But there you can see all of the macro jobs that I had. There's been 5 of them, 4 of them, 5. I always lose count. But check me out. Go look up my receipts. So I want to talk about this thing. It's really a question that I'm going to pose to you is, when it comes to your career in your life as a whole, so your personal and professional life, do you think is your thinking focused on the long term or the short term? Right. So I'm going to explain why. Right. What I've been noticing as of late is social workers out in the universe that find my work, meet with me, all of the things, right? Um, a lot of them, their focus is very short term, right? So the example that I'm going to give, because I was just talking about it with someone else, and it wasn't this person, but it sparked me thinking about it. So I'm like, let me talk about this. Is like when it comes to decisions in your career. So an example is usually the default decision is when people are like, I need a better job, I need to start making more money, is and this is for people who struggle with getting good jobs, right? So the immediate default is I'm going to go back to school and get another degree, right? So with that, and this may not be the best example now that I'm thinking about it. Yeah, we're gonna go with this example. So usually the default decision is I'm gonna get a degree because for many people, right, we just keeping it real. This is a real honest conversation, right? If you are a person that's like, I'm not making enough money, or you just don't like your job, whatever the thing may be for you. But we'll go with the example if you're not making enough money. Usually that means that on some level you are qualifying for financial aid or a loan if you have exhausted your Pell Grant funding. Um, or it may mean that you will need to get a scholarship, which is easy because maybe your school provides scholarships or fellowship funding, right? So the thought is because I am not paying anything out pocket, right? Out of pocket right now in this moment. Because when you pay out of pocket, them people want their money. They either require their money before I think most universities were the same. Like they require you to pay at the end of that semester. You can only get so far in owing them money. Like I know of a university where like your outstanding balance can't be more than $500, $499. If it $499.99. If you are at the $500 mark, you can't even enroll, right? So based on that, you need money, right? So for a lot of people, it's it sounds like the best way to get a better job is to like go back to school, and that's for people who are short term in their thinking, right? And I'm talking this out in real time. So if you are a person that just focuses on the short term, like what do I need to do right now to help me in the situation? Like what can I do to get immediate relief? So immediate relief is my money is limited. I don't have any. So a short-term fix is I'm going to go back to school. I don't have to pay them any money, right? I can get into the class immediately. But the problem with short-term thinking or using that type of approach to your life as a whole is you don't take into account what you are paying in the long term, what you are sacrificing in the long term. You're only thinking about the short term. And I'm not going to sit up here like I am oblivious to you know, life being what it is, money being limited. I have been in many situations where I had to do some things financially that people who are all about financial health and all of the things, they were like, why did you do that thing? Because I needed to meet my need right now. Right. So an example is I have had cars with extremely high APRs. Was I excited about the thing? No, I wasn't excited, but I needed a job. I needed a car right then. That was my only option because my credit ain't good because I had little to no credit because I never had any money to establish credit. So I all of the things, right? So I've been in a situation where I had a car with an extremely high interest rate where people would be like, "Oh, why would you do that?" Because I needed a vehicle. I needed a car to get me to work, to make money, to live because if I didn't work, I couldn't live. Right? So I am well aware of sometimes you do have to do some short-term things, thinking, make some short-term decisions to relieve the pain, to stop the bleeding. And I have to use what I have available to me. This is what I have available to me, right? I can't fix my credit in 1 month. I can't start making, I can't do that. I don't have anyone to co-sign for me. So I'm gonna have to sign my name for this high APR, right? But I also am aware that that is not the wisest thing because in the end, it costs me more to finance a car with a higher interest rate. So in the end, yes, I'm in the beginning, I got a car, my down payment low, right? It's 2,000 or 1,000. But in the end, on the back end, I done paid 10,000 on that loan. So yes, it met my immediate need right then. It stopped the bleeding. It met the need, but long-term wise, that wasn't a wise decision. But again, it's a difference between going in and making those types of decisions when there are other options available to you that you can tap into. Right? So for me in the car, it was no other option. That was it. It's either this or this. Or I could go to a buy here, pay here car lot, which I've had one of those cars, and they tear up 1 month down the road. Right? So it's either this or this. But for you and many people, right? So I want to be clear, it's not just you. Many of I'm talking to you. I'm working on my messaging. I'm talking to you, I'm not talking to everybody else. You, when you decide to go to college instead of hiring a career coach, heck, even get more consistent in your job searching. I can't tell you the number of people I've known over the years that say they want another job bad and they need another one immediately. And then I ask, well, how often are you applying to a job? Oh, I applied the other week. When was the other week? And then after a couple other questions, the last time they applied was the other month at the beginning of the month, and they hadn't applied since then. Right. So I say that to say, like, you have to think about if your thinking is short term in nature, where another example is like with clinical licensure. I don't know nothing about clinical licensure. I'm not a clinical social worker. I never had to look into the thing. But what I learned a few last year sometime from some of my clinical social workers that's inside of my career coaching program is that clinical licensure can cost you $10,000, if not more. I think the number she calculated was way higher than that. I just looked it up to like refresh my memory. I found a general Google search that says like one clinical supervision hour is $100. And then based on I don't know what state it was for, they were like, you need 100 hours of clinical supervision. When I did the calculation for that, that's $10,000. That is my coaching program costs nowhere near that amount. And I say that's $10,000 because then I have social workers who tell me repeatedly over and over and over again that they never wanted to do clinical work. And this is not to bash clinical supervision. I'm just using it as an example. So then the question then becomes for me, because I'm trying to wrap my brain around to understand, how did we get into making a career choice for something that costs you $10,000 that you don't even want to do, one, or that is not yielding you the return on investment that you expected? I also hear that from many social workers too that find me on the internet, that they are barely making 50, 60,000 in their private practices. Now, I'm sure there are the unicorns out there, but I have heard that from an overwhelming number of social workers. So me trying to understand, right? That's the macro in me. I got to understand what is really happening. I'm looking at the numbers, I'm calculating the thing. I'm like, well, maybe it's because I know in some instances with clinical licensure that y'all can get with employers who cover your supervision, right? So I'm sure there's a large subset of people that don't even pay for the hours because you were with the organization that pays for it. And I also saw that in the Google search that I looked up. But even with that, right, you have to then work for the employer, right? And I learned this from somebody else too. You have to work for the employer in exchange for the hours, but then the jobs that you have pay you not a lot of money, less than 50,000. So I can see the strategic thought in, oh, okay, I'm gonna get this $10,000 clinical supervision care paid for. But I think I looked up and I don't know how many years it take you to do 100 hours. Well, it said 100 weeks. Let me pull out my calculator because I really want to understand so I can talk to the thing. So it said 100 hours for 100 weeks because it's 1 hour a week, right? On average, without, all the other stuff, there are 4 weeks in a month. What? No, that can't be right. 25? Look, math was not my strong suit in school. Reading comprehension was. Okay. So 100 divided by 4, 25 weeks. 25 weeks. So it take you 25 months, excuse me. So it take you 25 months. 25 months divided by 4. No. How many years do it take y'all to get licensure? This is saying 6. No, 25 divided by 12. 2 years, 2 years. See, told you math was not my thing. So it take you 2.83 years. Yeah, okay. 2.83 years to get supervision. So if you are working with an employer who is sponsoring your clinical supervision, right? Again, that's a strategic move. I love that. I love that idea. But then you are going 2 years of stifling your earning potential, even if even if it's to go full practice mode, right? So 2 years of making less than 50,000. I've heard some people say like 40,000. I don't know. 2 years of that. And for my people who get to the end of all of that and then say, I don't even want to do clinical. Like I've had coaching clients who got clinical supervision, like did the licensure, finally got it done. And then 1 week after doing clinical therapy sessions, they're like, I don't even want to do it. And it wasn't even a full week. It was like 1 or 2 clients. I think that is not thinking about the long term, right? That was short term in nature because even when I saw in the Google search, like, oh, it's $100 a week for 1 hour. So I could see why someone would choose that, with a short term focus, right? Approach to thinking. Because it's only you're paying $100 one. Oh, that don't really hurt you. That don't really touch your pockets. Now it was a difference if they wanted their 10,000 up front. You're gonna feel that. But when you're paying $100, again, we're just using that number because that's what Google gave me. I don't know. But if you're paying $100 a week, you don't really feel that, right? Hmm. So if you are short-term thinking, if you are coming from a place of survival and scarcity, right? Survival and scarcity, because I know you just trying to make it through the day, right? But with that, you're also having to go through this process for 2 years. So it's not immediate results. You still have to sit through the pain and bleed and feel the pain and all of the things of working jobs that you don't like for 2 years before you can do the thing after you have sat through your degree programs, 4 years, 6 years, even with accelerated track on top of your bachelor's degree. That's a lot. Oh gosh, that's a lot. $100 a week. And my program is 3 months. 3 months in length. 3 months. My coaching clients start getting results from 30 to 45 day mark. I don't make any guarantees, but the ones that do the work, 30 to day 45, they have had at least 2 macro interviews. Wow. Right. So I really wanted to oh, that's a lot. So I really wanted to come on and ask the question, like, is your thinking rooted in short-term relief? Or are you really thinking about the long-term and to encourage you to start thinking about the long-term implications of your short-term thinking, right? So short term, that ain't really touching me. $100 a week, okay, I could do that. 400 a month, okay, I could. Maybe you feel that a little bit more, but in the end, let's say you in those 2 years, you could have been in $100,000 job or been in your practice making $100,000. That's essentially, let's say, in your clinical supervision hours, um, you're making $50,000. That's $100,000 you done missed out in a year. Plus, you didn't paid. Well, you didn't pay. Let's say the employer did it, or if your employer did pay, or if you did have to pay, you didn't have an employer to pay. That's the $10,000 you had to pay. So that thing cost you $110,000 for 2 years. I hope this makes sense. I'm sure it did. But I really just want to encourage you all to shift from being solely short term thinking, like shift from using that approach in your career and kind of combine the two. Right. When you're making career decisions or decisions about your career, you want to think about you now, your need now, but also your need 2, 3 years from now, 5, 10 years from now, and ensure that you are making decisions that can maximize the return on your investment. And I'm not talking about just money, but money is the primary thing, right? It could also be your emotional health. It could be your mental health, right? Because there are an overwhelming number of social workers who are burnt out, so much so that they are not well in every sense of the word. So something that appears to have like a low barrier to access may be costing you so much more in other areas of your life. And so again, use the analogy that I gave. I bought a car with a high interest rate before, but I had to do that. So you really need to be asking, like, is this really my only option right now? And again, some people for them, it is their only option. It's their only option that they know about, right? So that's why I'm on the internet every day talking about your other options. You can do this instead, right? So share this episode with someone that you know, so they can start thinking a little differently about the decisions they make in their career, right? And so I'm going to end out with this, just so you understand why I go so hard about things. Last week, I shared in my stories a post that was posted by um, or a national macro organization that I follow on Instagram. If you don't know, I'm on Instagram, follow me there, _MSW coach. And it was a research, it was data pulled by the Pew Institute. Pew is a macro organization, right? And so the data they were looking at was regarding employment positions for Black workers. And it was showing through the report, I think it was like 35%, 38%, the overwhelming percentage of the number of Black workers in certain types of jobs, right? So how I will explain these jobs are, they are very service and labor intensive, right? This is one of the reasons why I became a macro social worker, because in the workforce development system, there's a tendency for the push for people that look like me to be pushed into very labor intensive. Every job requires labor, but I mean back breaking labor work, the people you see on the side of the roads digging ditches, the people you see um, doing things that endanger their life, not good quality jobs, warehouse workers, construction workers, people, I would go in my screenshots. I know I have it, but like very labor intensive jobs, jobs that have wear and tear on your body, on your mind. That's how I explain it. And on that list was social workers. On that list was social workers. On that list was not clinical therapists. I'm not saying that, but like mental health support workers. Um, and I knew that. I knew that before getting on the internet in 2020. That's why I go so hard about workforce equity. That's why I go so hard about educating people about what else they can do. And I just want to leave with you that you don't have to do work that is dangerous to you as a whole, as a person, right? And the truth is that there are more clinical social workers than not that are not well because of the work that they do. And not just clinical, even non-clinical. Let me be clear. This is not a clinical social work badge. Even non-clinical work social workers who are not well because of the quality of work and the positions that they work in. They are severely overworked. Social service people too, severely overworked, severely underpaid. That equates to low quality jobs. That's what we call that, right? So, yeah, I just want to leave that with you. If you get it, you get it. If you don't, you don't. But yeah, I really want you to start thinking long term. Think about like, okay, yes, it's costing me nothing up front, or it's costing me little to nothing up front to get this thing or to get into this type of work. And again, it's in your personal life too. Use my car example. It's costing me little to nothing in the front, but how much will it cost you in the long run? And is it worth it? Do you, and then in addition to that, do you have some other alternatives in place that you can maybe tap into? And I also leave this example. Another reason that I got into like focusing on social workers in the beginning, part of the reason, case manager specifically, is because one of my good friends back in my case management days, she became extremely burnt out because of the quality of work we did, where we were listening to people's problems day in and day out, and it compounded with her own personal things, compounded with she was dealing with stuff from the past and the present, right? And she became a shell of a person from doing that work. listening to people's problems day in and day out, combined with her own stuff. And she has never recovered. So I'm gonna leave you with that. Yes, the job is paying you, but is it really worth you? Is it really worth you? Is it worth you not being for your children, being there for your children in the way that you want because you're so burnt out, you in the room drinking wine, smoking, smoking whatever you want, right? Again, I've been there with the drinking wine thing. Is your relationship, are you not showing up fully as a parent because you in there drowning your sorrows from the weight of the world that you didn't had to carry all day? And so now you can't even like spend quality time with your children, your partner, your husband, your wife, your mother, your father. You snapping off on everybody, you making their life hell because your life hell. Is it really worth it? Because a lot of people will also what you have to understand, I talked about this on a live I did last week where someone said in the comments like, oh, I'm working on getting the experience I need in child welfare. She said she was doing child welfare, I think, right? And then she was excited about it. She was coming off as if she was excited about it, like, because we were talking about, what were we talking about? Oh, about how everything that you do in your career should lend to the bigger career goal, right? How one job should position you for the next one. So in the comments, she was like, I'm working on getting experience, blah, blah. Like, I'm doing exactly that. Yes. Like, right. And then 5 comments later, she's like, but I don't like child welfare. I get home at 7 and then I have to go to my other job and it's affecting my family life. You just said 5 comments above that you love it so much that you're pursuing to get promoted. So I say that to say this. There's a lot of people that you look up to and hold in high regards about their career. And this is what I said to them. I was like, because I could easily see through the smoke and mirrors, but y'all can't. Right. It's a lot of people that y'all hold up in high regards and you like want to follow in their footsteps. And little do you know they hate their jobs. They're in their job because they didn't know what other options they had available to them. And then also in the midst of that, they're selling y'all the dream on this, my career is goals and my career is great. And then they hate their job. There's a lot of people like that, where so much so that they eventually leave the profession or take demotions and start following their passion pursuits, right? But they don't show y'all that part. They only show y'all on LinkedIn, they on the flyers, they on the panels, but they hate their job. They go home and kick the dog. They go home and kick the cat and yell at the kids, right? It's bleeding over into the rest of their life. So when you're making these short-term decisions based on your immediate need, again, I fully understand. I plead with you, please, just especially if you're watching me, that means you know it's some other options. I plead that you start thinking about the long-term impacts of the decision you're making in that moment, right? Is it an impact that you want or is it one that you don't want? Because like I always say, all money ain't good money. All money ain't good money. Money ain't gonna replace your minutes, even if it's not affecting your money, right? Like you're like, my money situation, you never get these minutes back. So 2 years, those 4 years for me in the car loan, I never get those minutes back of going from month to month, like, oh gosh, how I'm gonna pay my month, how I'm gonna pay my car note, what I gotta do to get this, how many part-time jobs I got. It doesn't get me back the stress I spent over paying off that car. All right. I'm gonna go. Happy macro career planning. Bye.